So stay organized. So now that you've got a business, you're organized, you've got that client, you got to get started. So one thing when you're starting to be an independent contractor, and if you're doing side projects and you're still a full-time employee, keep this in mind too. What's helped you climb that corporate ladder is not going to help you whenever you're doing side gigs or doing consulting. So if you're asked to do something and you do it, that's great when you're a full-time employer because that's what they pay you to do. The more you work, the better deal it is for your employer because of the whole salary thing and not being paid hourly. So if you're constantly throwing more time at something to offset the complexity of what you said you would deliver, you don't want to do that when you're a consultant because that's going to tie into the time that you have to do other stuff for other work. If you're not tracking how long it takes you to do stuff and you're currently not a consultant, I would recommend you start tracking how long you think it's going to do a project before you do it, because that'll help you get into the idea of kind of estimating, at least rough estimating, what it's going to really take to do something. So start to think through the steps a little more than you would if you're just asked to do something as a full-time employee and know you want to deliver it. So, clarify expectations up front before starting any work, because that's going to be really key to customer relationship whenever you're consulting, is you've got to clarify what they're asking for up front. Because if you spend 2 weeks on something they thought was going to take 2 days, you've got a problem there, and it's not a good problem. So, start estimating stuff now so that whenever you're clarifying these expectations with the customer, they'll get an idea up front that, hey, you know what I thought was going to be simple isn't simple. You want them to know that before you actually start work doing it. And above all, learn to manage expectations, because when it's just you, you're the one who's got to manage the expectations. You can't duck behind a manager and say, hey, you know what, I messed up, can you talk to the business people? You've got to manage the expectations whenever it's just you. So learn to do that when it's not your own dime and it's not your own relationship is my suggestion there. So contractor or consultant. Now when I was starting out, I thought this was just a tomato versus tomato thing, but it's really how do you find work and who owns a relationship and what's the tax situation, that sort of thing is what these two terms are getting at. A contractor is really it's kind of a plug-in employee. So it's going to be a contract job. They've got some work that they're trying to fill some people in to do the work. And it usually has a budgeted amount of time. So it'll be like 3 months or 6 months or a specific time window that they've budgeted time for. And then they're going to plug you in. The drawback is the interview process can be a lot harder than a full-time employee because they're looking for someone who has the exact experience that they want for that project, not someone that can kind of grow into that project. That's typically the full-time employee. They'll say, hey, they've got a good foundation. We can train them up on these few skills and then grow them into the project. But for a contractor, they want you to already have the experience usually. Whenever you get the job, it's kind of like you're plugged in. You do a lot of the same things that an employer or an employee does. Oftentimes, if you're going through a recruiter or an agent, so a middle person, you can get a W-2, which is a tax thing saying that you're really working for somebody else, and they'll handle some of the taxes for you, so the rate will actually be less for you, but they're picking up some of the tax for you. That's why.